Wrestling fans around the corner, around the world, I'm Dan Marty.
Bill Eadie, Demolition.
We are back for more. It's WWF 1987. Brand new Wrestling Insiders starts now.
Tickets are on sale now for our 20th anniversary Back to the 80s and 90s WrestleFest Birthday Bash, Saturday, November the 13th at Memorial Hall in Melrose, Massachusetts.
This is Mick Foley.
This is Harley Race.
This is Shelton Benjamin.
This is Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff.
This is the Monster Abyss.
And this is Daniel Bryan.
This is JBL, and you're watching the MWF.
Be there, live.
Wrestling fans, welcome back. Thank you to this great crew we have, Bill. The recording drive we were on almost expired on our last episode. Yep. That happened with Cecil the Lion and Marty Jannetty back in February. Cecil the Lion, I don't think you've met him yet, but he actually roared at me ferociously. He was angry at me that he let the drive expire. But that's, we have some unique people, but we got some great people in there right now. We got Jackie the Joke Man. We got Dave the Intern. We got the Junior Ambassador, Devon Brent. All is well. All is safe as we continue to produce these great episodes. Again, we're having so much fun, we don't even want to change our clothes, Bill.
Nope.
No, we can't. All right.
We can't leave the studio.
We can't. We're locked in.
Yeah.
We know it's going to be destroyed within the next couple of years, so we got to get as much done as possible. Early 1987, you guys, once you got a little exposure on TV, they started you on the house show loops. You were doing some of those $50,000 bunkhouse battle royals, and you were working some tag team shots with babyface Rougeau brothers. Any memories of the young babyface Rougeaus at that point in early 87? Jacques and Raymond.
I don't like. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
working
you remember
with
them. Yeah.
I had a bad situation with Jacques when I was in Montreal as Masked Superstar.
Know what happened?
Well, I was going in to work with Dino, who was the champion, and I was beating everybody. And a situation came up where Jacques refused to wrestle me.
He refused to work you?
Yeah.
Really?
Because
he didn't want to do the job?
Yeah, because his name was Rougeau. Well, his brother had already wrestled me, and
do you mean Raymond?
His name
they
was
had another one with
His name was Rougeau. And Raymond was a true professional. Of the two, he was far superior. Long story short, I'm working with Dino, win the championship, go up there. We did a 2-year run. And then I went into AWA, and AWA was working a program for a brief period of time with Montreal.
I never knew you were in AWA.
Yeah.
Oh, as Masked Superstar?
Masked Superstar. And we're in the dressing room at the Montreal Stadium, and Vern comes up to me and he says, I want you to work with Jacques Rougeau, and I want you to put him over. I said, no. And Jacques was standing there. He says, what do you mean, no? I said, Vern, you don't know anything about this. But he was asked to put me over 3 or 4 years ago, and he said no because he was a Rougeau. Now, if you want me to go out and wrestle him, and if he can beat me, he wins. But if he can't beat me, he loses. Well, Jacques says, I don't understand, Bill. He says, I did everything that was asked of me. I said, no. One, you're lying. You told me you weren't going to put me over because your name was Rougeau and your family was well known here. 2, I'm not putting you over. 3, I wouldn't put you over if you were the last wrestler on earth. So that carried over to the Demolition, working with the Rougeaus. I'm sure he remembered it because I did. So even when we were strong heels, the people wanted us to kill Jacques. They liked Raymond. He sold and he worked good. So that was it. That's the Rougeaus.
Did you have any issues working with them in WWF?
No,
No.
no, we just didn't put them over. We weren't going to put them over.
Now, was that by your choice or by WWF's choice?
It would have been our choice,
Well,
but
per
it was,
se,
we were never asked to.
you were never, what if you were asked to in WWF?
We wouldn't have done
You
it.
still would have refused.
Yeah.
Would you have tried to maybe come up with an alternative finish where Barry would take the pin, or would you not even allow that?
Nope.
Really? You would?
We could have got DQ'd. And I'd tell him if it's, I've talked to him since. I saw him over in England a couple of years ago. We were doing a signing. He came up to me like we were long lost friends. and Barry says, "Why? What the hell's wrong with him?" I said, "I have no idea. Maybe his memory's gone."
So you're.
And I have very few people that I would say no to. He's one of them.
There's very few people I've ever heard you talk negatively about it. And Jacques is one of them, because I remember in one of our phone conversations that had come up at one point, that you weren't the world's biggest Jacques fan. So at least we know the reason why now.
Yeah.
What did you think of them, if you want to take maybe the personality out of it? What did you think of them as a tag team, as baby faces?
Well, I thought they were okay.
Per se, you were just
I thought
a booker.
I thought they were okay as a tag team. I think they would have been much better as later on when they had the Mounties and Raymond by himself. Raymond was a much better worker. He would get sympathy. You could get heat on him. Jacques probably did much better as the Mountie because of his arrogance.
Right.
So
I'll say this, and we'll get to it later on. I think they were more useful as a heel tag team when they had Jimmy Hart with them. But in early '87, obviously they were kind of, I would say, mid-card babyface tag team, to be fair.
And I'm not sure that Jacques ever realized, I'm sure he did realize, ever accepted the fact that he wasn't going to be better than Raymond.
Really? You think he realized Raymond was the better of the two?
In his mind, no. But I think listening to the fans and listening to the guys talk, and the guys would generate conversation with Raymond rather than Jacques.
Well, Raymond...
Because Jacques wasn't well liked by many people in it.
Well, I tell you this, Raymond went on to have a hell of a career with WWE as the French commentator. I think he was released just this year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're talking about a guy that debuted in
great
'86.
Great guy.
Hell of a run. Another team that you guys worked with a bit on the house shows that was kind of on their way out as you guys were coming in, Mike Rotundo and Danny Spivey.
Yeah.
They tried to repackage. They tried to do a few recasts. Sergeant Slaughter they tried to replace with Corporal Kirchner. Jimmy Snuka they tried to replace with Civiafi. Barry Windham they tried to replace with Danny Spivey. Your memories of working with Rotundo and Spivey?
Favorable. We didn't have that many matches with them. And of course we looked at as Danny as the big, stronger guy of the two. So the heat that we got was on his partner. And I just saw him just before the holidays in the event, and he looks good too.
Rotundo?
Yeah.
What a family lineage they have.
Oh, my
When you
goodness.
look at Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas nowadays in WWE. Grandfather, Blackjack Mulligan.
Yeah.
Dad is Mike Rotundo.
Yeah.
Uncle is Barry Windham.
Yeah.
And I mean, WWE really missed the
And,
boat.
and the other one, Kendall.
And Kendall Windham,
Yeah.
I forgot about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bray Wyatt's having a hell of a career. I think WWE missed the boat big time on Bo Dallas.
I think they missed the boat originally on Bray too.
How so?
I think that he was getting over so quickly and so popular that maybe it scared somebody in the office.
You think so?
Yeah, I really do.
Do you
Because they
think?
cut him off and then they were trying to repackage him and not sure that the repackaging was going to be favorable. I really do believe that they missed the boat on him. And Bo Dallas, too, so.
I tell you this, and I'm going to go off on a tangent because this is a guy I'd love to book him in a heartbeat on November the 13th. Bo Dallas, if you ever watched him, forget about his TV work, if you watched him at the house shows, which I told you I really like, his work was so good, so crisp, and they never took advantage of that and utilized it on TV. You know, decent enough looking guy.
Yeah.
He had a personality. Did he have an A+ physique? No, but I mean...
You can work on that.
Yeah, but is he a guy that's going to be the face of the company in a main eventer on pay-per-view for you? Probably not. But is he someone that maybe you could get upper mid-card matches out of? Maybe some TV main events to set up the pay-per-view main events? Absolutely. What a travesty, especially a guy young enough, I think he's still in his early 30s. WWE, and I've said it for years, long before he was released, WWE missed the boat on Bo Dallas to the Titanic level. But as far as Bray goes, you actually like the lantern persona of him when he had the little hat and the Hawaiian shirt? Really?
Yeah.
No, I prefer Fiend.
I haven't followed him recently.
I think where they do the dual personality with him now is a little bit too much. They have one side of him, I don't know if you've ever seen them, but he does these skits where he's almost like Mr. Rogers. They call it his funhouse, and that is,
yeah, I see
that's
that.
an abortion.
I see pictures of that, and I can't figure it out because I don't know what character he is. I mean, is he a fiend one night, and then the next night he's Mr. Rogers? And,
Exactly.
I just think that there's a lot of you were there. A lot of tinkering goes on, and most of the tinkering goes on after they're watching the monitor and they're listening to the reaction, and somebody says, "Wow, he's really over, isn't he?" And that filters over to somebody who says, "Well, shit, he's not as over as I am, is he? He's over more than you."
#1 merchandise seller for a while is Fiend stuff.
It's in every profession. Only there they can snuck you out. Where did he go for all this time? What happened to him? They have to bring him. He was that bad that they had to bring him back as a different character?
I think the problem was with the original persona when he had that Hawaiian shirt and the lantern. I think they overexposed it. It didn't need to be on TV 52 times a year.
We talked about that earlier.
We sure did. I think with Fiend, if they could limit him almost like what they would kind of do with Undertaker, where he would kind of come and go, I think Fiend is one of the better characters they've developed in years.
Well,
I think the Mr. Rogers part of it, though, is just awful.
You know, years ago, when the viewership for the events on TV was really high, nobody was on every week.
Right, and that's why everybody was over.
You might be on one week, and the third week you might do an interview.
Right.
Then they're baiting for you to come back on.
It turns into must-see TV.
And there for a period of time, this is like 5 or 6 years ago when I would watch it periodically. If I didn't see Orton, I remember him because he was on every week. There's 4 or 5 guys that were on every week. You can run your brand down yourself. There's only so many things you can do.
Right.
I mean, I know it wasn't him doing that.
Right,
He probably,
it was how he was presented.
Yeah, and that's what they did. And things went down. And all of a sudden, I don't know if they still do it, they have to reach back in the Legends bag and pull out a couple Legends and announce that they're going to be on November 13th.
There you go, baby. Memorial Hall, Melrose, Massachusetts.
They're going to be on
BostonWrestling.com.
November 13th to get the viewership up.
They do. Couple of times. And I say this, when they do those Legends reunion, and they go overboard with it.
Yeah.
Instead of just bringing in a half dozen, they bring in 30.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for it. They just stand there like idiots. But I don't want to disrespect any of the guys because it's the presentation. It's
Yeah,
not the way
it's
they
not
choose.
it's not the guys.
Right.
The
But,
trust me, the guys know that it shouldn't be that way.
the legends will always draw.
Yeah.
The legends will always draw. Nostalgia is cool, especially right
Yeah.
now. You see it at the Fan Fest. But just, and right now, for a while, you had a bag to pick from, especially after WCW closed, and TNA had a pretty decent, at one point TNA was doing 1.5 million people a week, respectable numbers on
Right.
cable TV. But now you have less and less to be able to cherry pick to bring in from different promotions. Was that number one, Dave? Yep. All right, buddy. And I think that's why you have such a stale roster right now. Last April, they released 30 talents. This April, they released 10. The week as we tape this, they released another 10 more from NXT. So to me, it just makes it boring. I mean, you talk about talent that's on TV every week. If you sit through a Monday Night Raw, there's times you have top talents that are sitting through 3 or 4 segments a show. I mean, is there anyone that really wants to see Nia Jax 3 or 4 times a week? She looks like a package of hot dogs that was shrink wrapped at the supermarket. I mean,
Yeah,
you're not even getting sex appeal on it.
No, it's but
Or if you look at WrestleMania. I'm sure you probably didn't watch WrestleMania this year with everything you had going on.
no, I did not.
But out of everybody on that roster, there were 2 wrestlers that wrestled on both nights. Could you tell me who they were?
No, you have to tell me.
Natalya and Tamina.
I don't know either one of them.
Natalya is Jim Neidhart's
Oh,
daughter.
okay.
And Tamina is Jimmy's daughter, Jimmy Snuka's daughter.
I didn't know that.
Now, out of everybody on both rosters, those were the only 2 that worked both nights. And then you look at what...
And see, why would they have them work both nights?
Well, because on the first night they did a turmoil match to see who was going to get the women's tag team title match the next night. The turmoil match should have been on TV to build up to the pay-per-view, in my opinion. But then at the same time, you have the SmackDown title. They called it WrestleMania SmackDown the night before. Rey Mysterio, who will probably go down as a legend to some, especially to like the kid in the other room right there, who was a Rey Mysterio fanatic for a lot of his life.
Sure, very popular.
He's much closer to the end than the beginning, where I believe he's closer to 50 than 40. They have him on SmackDown and not on WrestleMania. It's an asinine to me for someone that the fans, he's beloved by the fans, but you have 2 nights of Jim Neidhart and Jimmy Snuka's daughters having lousy matches that suck. Both nights, to be honest. Bill, I think they need us, brother.
Well,
I know you don't want to be on the road. I don't think Sue would want you on the road full time.
no.
But you can consult at least. I can do some of the writing. I'll send it to you, see what you think, and we'll give it to Vince. How's that sound?
At this point in my life, I'd rather go to the beach and fish.
Are you a fisherman?
I like fishing. I
Do
just
ya?
haven't had a chance to do it often. I'd like to start playing golf again. I want to do what I want to do.
Are you close to a body of water where you can fish?
It's about an hour away.
Oh, wow.
When
Okay.
I'm up to my daughters, they live right on the lake.
Oh, do they? Oh, that's
So
nice
I go
then.
down to the dock and throw it in, have a drink, and throw it in, and just pass the day.
Hey, why not?
My wife will yell down, "Time to eat."
Well, you know what? If you make the move you were talking about in the car, it'll be easier than the one Barry wanted
Yeah.
to make, where he
Yeah.
wants to go to the middle of nowhere in Michigan. My
Yeah,
God.
but his family's there, his boys.
Oh,
there.
no, I understand the reason why, but my God, it won't be easy to get him in. He was telling me the name of the airport. I've never even heard of the city.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We love Barry, too. We talked about Rotundo and Spivey, another team you guys worked with early on. Serviceable team, over enough to some degree, never really a heck of a lot done with them. B. Brian Blair, Jim Brunzell, the Killer Bees.
Yeah, there again, I don't know why they didn't push those guys.
I think they missed the boat maybe a little on the merchandising with the masks.
Yeah.
The little, bzzz.
I think Jim would have done a lot better as a single. I don't know. I don't know the situation or the circumstances of tagging them up, other than the fact that when we were there at that time, tags drove the company. So they probably got as many tag teams together as they possibly could. Nowadays, the only time you're in a tag team is when you got two single guys and they don't know what to do with, they just put them together.
Perfect way to explain it.
And if we think of something, we'll break them up.
And then when they split them up, they have nothing for them to do.
Exactly. But then tag teams meant tag teams. They worked together, they worked for each other, they worked for the match, they worked for the opponents. I just think that in Jim's case, and nothing against Brian, Brian's an excellent professional wrestler. And he probably would have done better as a single too, but I figure they probably just put them together to make another team, a babyface, white meat team. You know.
And they were a good team.
Oh yeah, they were a good team.
There was nothing about them really stood out.
They never did anything with them.
Yeah.
So
I tell you, Brian Blair is probably the least liked person that's ever been mentioned in this studio. I mentioned before the Iron Sheik's video about how we wanted to anally violate Brian after their WrestleMania 3 match, and Mr. USA Tony Atlas, it literally exploded as Brian repeated a story about a roadside fight between Paul Orndorff and Tony many moons ago. I believe it was during the Mid-South days, where Brian claimed that Paul bit Tony's ear off and spit it out like it was bubble gum, and they had to take the ear and Tony to the hospital to have it repaired. And we almost did an expose on Tony's ear, and it looks fully intact, like it was never bitten off. And I tell you, you know Tony's a pretty, despite how irritated I am with him right now, he's a pretty good-natured human being.
Yeah.
He was livid with Brian Blair.
Did he say that it happened or didn't
he wanted to beat the ever-living you-know-what out of him. He said if he ever saw him. He started swearing, and he got very angry that Blair kept repeating the story that Paul Orndorff bit off Tony's ear.
I never heard that.
Apparently it didn't happen.
I must have lived a secluded life.
The fight happened. Did you ever hear about the fight?
No.
They did get into a fight on the side of the road. But as far as biting his ear off, Tony didn't like that. What did you think of Brian Blair?
I wasn't around Brian that much. I never had any problem with him. I know he was cozy with Hogan. And a lot of the guys would make comments that he was there because Hogan was there. But I never had any words with him or difficulty with him in the ring. And we worked, like you say, we worked a number of times.
Yeah? Oh, yeah. Over the course of a couple of years.
Yeah, he was always professional, and I don't have any negative comment. Matter of fact, he was the one that asked us to come out to the induction for
Cauliflower Alley Club.
And I know that takes a lot of his time up, so. No, I don't have any bad things for him.
And it's funny, for all the people that have come into the studio and buried him, and I'm, me, I'm very involved in Cauliflower Alley Club, and my interactions with them have always been nice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, as far as I go, I have nothing bad to say about him. But I know the Sheik, he took great offense, as Brian told a story that the Sheik sodomized a young boy in Australia. And when the Sheik found out about that, the tirade, Cosro went on about that. So I don't know if that vendetta is one that'll ever be closed out between Blair and the Sheik, as you have a guy in his mid-60s and another one pushing 80 that I don't even think knows what his true age is.
Yeah, I heard a lot of comments from the Sheik over the years at events and signings and stuff about Brian. And I didn't know. Quite honestly, I thought it was a put on.
No.
So now you've enlightened me with
No.
that.
I tell you, the first time we ever did an interview like this, it was the night after a live event. And I was even closer to the Sheik than you are now. He showed up high as a kite with no teeth. He had on a fake Olympic medal, a baby blue USA jumpsuit, a Kurt Angle t-shirt. And in the beginning, he's telling this very interesting life story about life in Iran, being the bodyguard for the Shah, how it was a test to him from the political people. They brought him out to the desert, and they brought him to a grave where they murdered his cousin, which is what led him to leave the country
Wow.
and come to America. And then it turned into this wild road about how he wanted to rape Hulk Hogan and how he wanted to rape Brian Blair, because I guess in Iran, it's almost like a punishment if you commit a crime. It's not considered homosexual if you're the one doing the humbling. It's only the humblee. And Jake Roberts was on the list because I guess he brought Jake a little cocaine into Canada and he didn't give the Sheik much, so he wanted to humble Jake. Randy Savage was on the list. He wanted to humble everybody. But
Wow.
that's a hell of a form of punishment.
Yeah,
It's not one I ever thought of doing in a fight.
No. Yeah, I've heard his comments and stuff. I just thought that, I know that they were at a event together, a signing, and it was across the conference room. And I just thought that it was just a build-up for some kind of a match. Or
But what the hell would the payoff be? The Sheik could barely walk, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? The memories are Sheiky, baby. But back to the world of Demolition, another team that you worked with, one that I always found to be very highly underrated, Haku and Tom of the Islanders.
Oh man, yeah.
I thought they were great.
Yeah. Yeah, Haku hasn't been given his just dues in this business. We were talking the other day, Barry and I, what a team Haku and Barbarian would have been.
Yeah, they teamed together a little in WWF, but much more in WCW, yeah.
But, yeah, we had good matches with those guys. I mean, they look like they kill you, like we tried to do, look like we kill you, and don't hurt you. People would say, my God, we saw you working with those guys and we thought that you took their head off. I said, did you ask him? I said, they didn't even feel you. That's what you're supposed to do. So, and they were the same. Haku would give you that kick or that chop. Phew.
And the funny thing is, that was actually your Boston Garden debut as Demolition.
Oh, was it?
You worked the Islanders, yeah, back in May of 1987. I remember it vividly because it was they shot a great angle between Hogan and Harley Race. After Hogan beat Harley came back to the ring and he really did a number on Hogan and bloodied him up, and they did a Texas death match in June of '87. So that was Demolition's introduction to the old garden, was over Haku and Tom.
What a place that garden was.
Any memories of the Boston Garden?
Oh
that
yeah,
stands out?
yeah. It was. I remember years ago when I first was in there as Mass Superstar. I was working with Andre, and I had a lot of heat, and they were throwing batteries from the upper deck, the balcony, and bouncing all over, and bolts, old rusty steel bolts. And Andre says, be careful, he says, I'll take care of this. And Andre grabbed his head and took a bump, and all the bolts and the battery stopped.
Andre took a bump?
Oh yeah, from the,
Really?
yeah, because the people thought they did it.
Yeah, right. No, I understand that, but I can't believe he took a bump.
Oh, he and I had good matches.
Yeah.
He took lots of bumps for me, and there was no more batteries, no more bolts, and I just kicked the crap out of him. And of course, he made a comeback, and I'm sure he won the match, but that was the end of that. But the Gardens, we went just before they were closing it. We were watching, having a match in the afternoon, and the Celtics were playing that night. And Larry Bird had come over and asked us if we wanted to stay and watch the game.
Oh, wow.
So I said, oh man, yeah, I was never out of. So we sat on the floor at the end of the bench. You're talking about physical. Those pro basketball players are physical as hell. And then another time we were in the Garden, and they had the spread, the buffet spread. And by the time we got into the buffet, all the rats from the basement had come up, and they were eating all the food.
Now, do you mean ring rats or
Rats.
Rat rats?
Rat rats.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, maybe both.
Yeah.
Oh, really? The Boston Garden was known to have some massive sized rats.
Oh, yeah. In Atlanta, the Omni, before the Omni, it was the Memorial Center. And same thing.
Same thing.
You know, the building was probably 5 stories. The top 3 stories were wrestling and balconies, and the bottom 2 were basements.
Oh, so plenty of room. Yeah.
Windows were out, trash was there. You'd see rats scurrying all over the place.
Well, in more ways than one in Boston. I remember the ring rats used to sit on those steps right when you'd exit the locker room, waiting to try and latch on to somebody for the night, but that's a different story for a different time. Wrestling fans, right now we're going to take a brief time out. We'll be back with Demolition Axe, Bill Eadie. Stand by.
Tickets are on sale now for our 20th anniversary Back to the 80s and 90s WrestleFest Birthday Bash, Saturday, November the 13th at Memorial Hall in Melrose, Massachusetts. The World Wrestling Federation was live in New Bedford, Massachusetts, Thursday, October the 6th, 1983. In the opening contest, Butcher Vachon beat Chuck Tanner. S.D. Jones drew Swede Hansen. The Invaders with the win over Rene Goulet and Don Granodal via disqualification. The Masked Superstar defeated Chief Jay Strongbow, and in the main event, Sergeant Slaughter victorious over Pat Patterson via countout. If you were in New Bedford live, share your memories in the comment section below. Use the links in the description box to keep Wrestling Legends working in our eBay store and on our world-renowned Patreon streaming service so we can bring you more interactive Superstars shoot interviews to relive the good old days of professional wrestling. Check it out. Boston wrestling sports in the MWF explodes into a new year with professional wrestling content galore and need you to join our family. Every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. after our Monday Night Raw review, it's Wrestling Insiders at your house with WWE Hall of Famer Mr. USA Tony Atlas. Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. after NXT and AEW, join rotating legends on Wrestling Insiders Special Edition. Every Thursday night at 10 p.m. after our NXT and Dynamite review, it's Marty Jannetty's no-holds-barred sex, drugs, and rock and roll journey on Wrestling Insiders Party with Marty. Friday night after SmackDown, don't miss John Cena Sr.'s Wrestling Insiders Fabulous Fridays. Plus, look for classic clips, history videos, bonus live episodes, pay-per-view watch-alongs, and more. For less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks, get early ad-free access to our Wrestling Insider talk shows, our acclaimed studio shoot interview DVD library, and help keep wrestling legends working during the worst of times. Join our growing family at patreon.com/Boston Wrestling. Expect the unexpected in 2021.
Wrestling fans around the corner, around the world, I'm Dan Roddy.
And I'm Mr. USA WWE Hall of Famer Tony Atlas.
The road to WrestleMania has begun. Wrestling fans are looking to add to their man caves. You got to see what we have in the eBay store.
Check it out.
Arguably the greatest professional wrestler of all time. Get this limited edition collector's autograph print personally signed by two-time WWE Hall of Famer Nature Boy Ric Flair, inscribed 16 times for each of his recognized World Championship reigns. One of only 50 made direct from our friends at WWE. Also signed by original artist Rob Schamberger. Help keep wrestling legends working. Get this awesome Ric Flair collectible for your wrestling collection now. Wrestling fans, especially here in the Boston area, we want to thank our great friends at Red Rose for their support for all of our charitable endeavors and programming efforts. Red Rose is 2 years young and extremely thankful for all the support they've had from our neighbors here in Melrose and beyond for an amazing first 2 years. Red Rose thanks Melrose and all of the first responders who have fought the good fight and have never given up hope during these unprecedented times. We did it together. Follow Red Rose on Facebook for their anniversary special, facebook.com/Red Rose Melrose. You'll be glad you did. Open until 2 a.m. Red Rose will give you fresh, piping hot, mouth-watering food that'll put an ear-to-ear smile on even the toughest critic's face. Check out their full menu online at redrosema.com or give them a call, 781-620-1889.
All right, wrestling fans, welcome back as we continue to look at one of my favorite years in wrestling history, 1987. I absolutely loved it. Big reason why Axe and Smash Demolition started to come into the fold. I thought they was such a cool, unique, kick-ass tag team. Very different than the Road Warriors, who would have pretty much the same match every time you saw them. Demolition was always unique. They would sell. They would, move around, take some bumps, do a little bit more. We'll get into that more when the LOD comes into the WWF in this chronological look that we have. Remember we did this before where I kept calling you Barry, and I almost did it again. I almost called you Barry, and I must have called Barry.
I've been called a lot worse, so.
I must have called Barry Bill 15 times in the interviews we did in Florida. But forgive me for the bees. February 21st, 1987, probably not a date that jumps out at you, but another night where one of the biggest angles in WWF history was set up. It was one of the biggest Saturday night main events in company history, those NBC specials. The main event was the Battle Royal, the first time Hulk and Andre just barely touched, just enough to make you want to see WrestleMania 3 even more. Right. You were in that big Battle Royal. Any memories of the electricity of the Hulkster and Andre getting oh so close before Paul Orndorff cut off the Hulkster and the Battle Royal was off to the races? I think Hercules wound up winning it.
Did he? I don't remember, to be honest with you. I remember the time frame. I remember the build-up to their WrestleMania match.
Yeah.
And, of course, prior to that, Andre was always a good guy. And for him to turn and be with Bobby Heenan was a big thing. I mean,
yeah.
And Hogan sold it well. He was sort of
like $1 million.
Like so disappointed that Andre would make that change.
His friend, his good friend would turn on him like that. It was such a believable story.
Yeah.
And then you have on the flip side Andre, who, he portrayed as undefeated for so many years and, never given his just due, never given that championship opportunity. So you could almost sympathize with Andre's point of view, too. It was a very good storyline.
Yeah.
In that Saturday night's main event special, I remember as a kid, I was glued to the TV, thinking that Andre and Hogan might hook it up before WrestleMania 3. And again, they did just a smidge, but it was just enough to make you want it even more. And that's good booking.
Oh, yeah, that's good tease.
That was a great tease. Good booking. You may not remember that one so much, but 2 nights later, you guys happened to be live, February the 23rd, 1987, almost like Boston, live at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden, for the very first time as Demolition, again taking on Haku and Tama for probably a bigger deal for Barry, where you would work the Garden before as Mass Superstar. But any memories as your Demolition debut at the Garden at MSG? How did the New York crowd take the Demolition?
Well, I think they received us pretty well. And like you say, the Garden's the Mecca. You can go all over the world and participate in much larger crowds, much larger venues. But if you go to the Garden, it's the top pinnacle. You always want to say, I worked the Garden, and we did many times. It's a special place.
Yeah.
It is. It's
sure is.
The crowds
even now.
The crowds are real responsive. They're almost fanatical. I remember hearing a good reaction to us. Of course, we weren't the baby faces that they wanted us to be.
Right, right. But they still loved you.
Yeah.
They loved the gimmick.
Yeah.
You know what I hate about the remodel now? They don't have the old entranceway. They have the long way that everybody else uses.
Oh,
most
wow.
arenas. I miss that. I love that little,
Yeah.
almost like how the Boston
From
Garden
the balcony
entrance
to the
was.
ring, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No more. But I guess that's how it's changed for a lot of modern arenas.
Yeah.
In the final TV tapings right before WrestleMania 3, a woman we mentioned in the car came to WWF for a very, very short stint. Do you remember Missy's Manor? Missy Hyatt was brought in to try and become an interview segment as Roddy Piper was getting ready to say farewell. I guess they were a complete and utter disaster because they never aired on television. They tried to retape it several times, but Missy Hyatt was in very quick and off she went. It was the same TV taping where Mr. Fuji replaced Johnny V with you guys out in Phoenix.
I remember, like you said, it was brief. There was a buzz about her doing it. I didn't know that they never showed them, though.
Never aired, yeah.
Wow.
So they must have tanked. Because, you know, to build those elaborate sets and so on and so forth, you know, WWF
And
has to put a lot of time into it.
where would she have come in from?
In '87, she might have been with Watts at UWF at that point. And she didn't come with Eddie Gilbert, though. I don't think he was involved in the package.
Or
So it was just her.
Mid-Atlantic, maybe? I don't,
I would say UWF with Watts at that point in '87.
Okay.
I know she obviously wound up there at some point, but, well, she did introduce Barry to his wife.
Yeah.
So maybe it was maybe you're right, maybe it was Mid-Atlantic.
I don't
They
recall.
would jump from territory to territory more, but, you know, obviously at that point, I thought she, even more than Miss Elizabeth, I thought she was the prettiest woman in wrestling. And
she had been established for some time, so.
And, you know, there may have even been a featurette in WWF magazine about her coming in, which is the reason why I think, as a little kid, I knew about it, and then just there was never a follow-up on TV. So the 6 segments that they taped really must have been bad.
You know the thing that, and I don't think the fans realize this, we were working every day. When wrestling was on TV, then it was on the weekends,
Yeah,
which was our big time. And we never watched wrestling because we were either going to or from an event. So I'm surprised that they didn't hear them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, you're smart enough to know that WWF Productions, they have to put a lot of work into creating sets and things like that. And for them to invest that much time and money into...
So what did they do during the time that Piper left till the time that they developed somebody else? Was that the Beefcake era?
No.
Brutus the Barber?
The Barber Shop was debuted in '91, I think.
Okay.
They did... Geez, they did on Superstars, it was Piper's Pit, and on Challenge, it was the Snake Pit with Jake Roberts. And I think for a while, those interview segments just kind of fizzled out until maybe Brother Love came in a year or so later to do those segments. And I thought, you know, I didn't enjoy them much then, but now looking back on it, I thought Bruce did a really good job in that gimmick. But we'll get there as time goes on as we look at it. But I mean, again, to me, you have the hottest lady in wrestling coming into WWF. She's in the magazine and then never seen on television. I just found that strange. So those segments, if you probably had a million other things going on at those TV tapings, but they must have been really bad if they tried that hard to get them over, even to feature her in the magazine, and then never use her and never use the segments. Wow. That's odd, you know?
Very odd. I didn't know that at all.
All right,
I'm learning a lot.
Well, sometimes the guys almost look at these as history lessons. Sometimes it's almost like therapy for them to go through their career and all these people that they met and people they probably haven't thought of in eons.
Yep.
But another team you guys worked with a bit in 1988 that really, I don't think ever got their just due. I thought they were an enjoyable team to watch. Paul Romer and Jim Powers, the Young Stallions.
Yeah, they were very good. We worked with them a number of times. We worked with them over in France,
Oh, on international tours?
in Italy, and excuse me, Sicily. Great guys, good workers. Fans loved them. The ladies loved them.
Oh, I'm sure.
Just good-looking bodybuilders. They could work, unlike some bodybuilders that never know how to work. So
Almost get too big.
yeah,
Why don't you think they ever got over? Why don't you think they ever got a decent push? They did, if you know, if you want to look at history, the first Survivor Series they went over is almost kind of a surprise. But as far as on a regular basis, they were always the jobber tag team for the babyface.
you know,
side.
I don't know. It just probably the time frame that they were there. There were so many. You had the Hearts, you had the Bulldogs, Killer Bees. There was a lot of good tag teams.
When you look at the lower card of the tag teams, do you think the Young Stallions, would you have ranked them above either, say, the Rougeaus
Oh,
or the
yeah.
Killer Bees or the
Yeah.
Islanders?
Yeah, not the Islanders. I'd say they'd be about same level.
Is the Bees and the Rougeaus?
Yeah.
Really? So you think they deserved maybe a better push than
Oh,
they
yeah.
got? Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I always enjoyed
And that,
watching.
and you know, that's not anything against any of the other guys.
Right. You just
asked me to
right.
move
If you were
15,
booking, where would you
15
rank them?
teams, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul was kind of had a strong personality. Do you think that had anything to do with it?
Well, I think that probably the one thing that may have held them back was their interview skills. Neither one of them were crisp on their interviews, but that takes time. You got to give the opportunity to do interviews before you can learn how to do them.
Right. You got to practice.
So that's not their fault. They could have put in a situation where they do interview time, even if it's for the can. You know.
Just for practice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But their matches,
Oh, the matches
always
were
very good, I thought.
Yeah, they had fire. They could sell. They weren't afraid to sell. You could go after them and get good heat on them, and they'd make a big comeback. So it's just a funny situation sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and too bad it didn't work out better for them. You know, they, like I said, I thought they were one of the better babyface teams
Yeah.
at that time. As far as when I was at the live event sitting there watching it, you know, I usually enjoyed their work. Take us back to the big one, March the 29th, 1987, the Pontiac Silverdome, WrestleMania 3. No Demolition on the card, but were
No.
you at the venue? Were you there for it?
I don't believe so.
Really?
No.
What the hell were you doing?
Uh,
The home, enjoying life a little bit, or
might have been home
really?
on that one or two rare days. Yeah.
They didn't want you there just in case there was a no-show or an injury, or
I don't know.
no? But you don't remember being there for the big Hogan and Andre match?
Nope.
No. Wow.
Nope.
I'm kind of surprised by that. Usually, for most TV tapings and big events like that, wouldn't most of the roster be expected to be there just in case
Well,
something
I'm
happened?
sure we were there the day up before, had the day off, and probably the day after, because they ran events right after.
Oh yeah.
You know, when we were doing all the WrestleManias, you were there 3 or 4 days preparing for it and doing your signings and your parades and your meetings, and have the match, and then leave the hotel the first thing in the morning and make the next event.
Right.
So, no, I don't remember being there at all.
Oh, wow. I'm kind of surprised by that.
Yeah.
That event, along with the legendary Hogan and Andre match that people remember so well, it was the quasi-retirement match of the one and only Roddy Piper, who vanished from the WWF landscape for a few years to try Hollywood. Your memories of the Hot Rod?
Oh, fantastic. Good friend of mine, friend of my wife, friend of Barry and his wife. just a carefree. I met Roddy the first time in Japan, and he had come over under a mask from Los Angeles as Mr. Olympia from the LA Coliseum, LA Olympic Auditorium. And just a lot of fun. Happy-go-lucky. A little eccentric, but it was positive eccentric. I mean, just a good guy. I mean, he was a franchise type guy.
Yeah.
So
You hate to say underrated for someone that had so much success, but I don't think he gets his just due sometimes.
I don't think he does. I don't think he does either.
Legends in that company's history.
But he had standards that he would go to and stop. And I don't think the office understood that sometimes. And he was also with us when we were in Georgia and in Mid-Atlantic. So I was around him a number of years. All positive. Yeah, good guy.
You were on the road with him. Do you think it was a tough final few weeks where he was doing the farewells in every city? Or do you think in his mind he knew that maybe after he got the Hollywood movie thing out of his system that he'd come back? Because to me as a little kid, I didn't think we were ever going to see him again. But, you know, obviously as we've learned in wrestling later on, that's usually not how the retirements go.
Yeah. I don't recall him making any statements that he wasn't going to come back. And like you say, persuasion from the promoters or the owners sometimes can convince you to come back.
Sure.
So, and I don't think it was a matter of money. He didn't need the money.
He
probably missed it.
Monster money.
Yeah, he probably just missed it. Just a good guy. I mean, I get along most with everybody, but Piper was always, he had that contagious laugh and smile, you know, and he was always up. He might have been depressed, but he didn't project it. So.
Another one that left us too soon.
Oh, that was another one
That must have stung.
come out of left field, yeah. Yeah.
Another younger guy that still had, you know what? I still think he could have contributed on a regular basis in WWE, even if, you know, a handful of times a year they brought him out for Piper's Pits to try and build
Sure.
up big pay-per-view main events. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Maybe if, like, even advertised him as a special attraction on the February pay-per-view with the two guys that are going to main event WrestleMania just to try
Exactly.
and add a little sizzle to that. He was just so good on the microphone, even if he didn't need to work
Yeah.
in the ring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One man's opinion, but I was always a big,
Well, there's
big,
a number
big
of
Piper
there's
guy.
a number of people that should be brought back periodically. He's one of them, definitely one of them. But for some reason, the people that make those decisions decide not to.
Well, you know, when you have divas that nobody cares about, and those nameless, faceless women that sit there and, what do you think about your match tonight with Roman Reigns? Mean Gene Okerlund, they are not.
No.
Shortly after WrestleMania 3, you had well, to me, I thought it was a debut, but I would learn later on with wrestling history, it was a return of Killer Khan from Japan. Any memories of Killer Khan coming back as he was groomed to be one of Hulk Hogan's opponents of a season?
Well, I knew him as a young boy in Japan. He worked for New Japan Pro Wrestling as well as I did.
Mm-hmm.
And he was always a true professional. Most of the Japanese, they are brought up in that dojo where they are disciplined to, you know, toe the line. And he did that. And he was, I mean, he was genuine. If he wanted to be stiff, he could be stiff. I think he was a former sumo wrestler.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Young boy. And he looked the part.
Great look for a heel.
Yeah, yeah. And he did real well. I knew his wife.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did he live in the U.S. or did you know her from over in Japan?
I knew them when they were in Charlotte.
Oh, he lived in Charlotte.
Yeah, he lived in Charlotte. They unfortunately got divorced a number of years later.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'd go periodically and have dinner with them, and
Oh, wow.
before my wife moved down. He was a good guy. She was a terrific lady. And I believe they had a little boy.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I believe he runs a restaurant now over in Japan.
I heard that.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully he's having a nice life over
Yeah.
in Japan. Do you think he was a good, credible heel main eventer for Hogan?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And he could work, at that time, Hogan was still learning too. Hogan developed over the years to become a real professional.
Mm.
But he needed guys that would work around him too. And I think his name went, I think he went as Mizawa over in Japan. And
Killer Khan?
Killer Khan.
Oh, really? Okay.
But then after he got notoriety here, he went as Killer Khan over there. But yeah, he was a good guy. And there again, when you're in Japan, you don't mingle with the Japanese. It's two different groups, two different locker rooms, two different, sometimes three different buses or trains, but always produced in the ring.
Let me ask you about this one. April 27th, 1987. Again, a day that probably doesn't ring a bell right off the bat, but WWF was live in London, Ontario. Brutus the Barber, Beefcake now, maybe a little nod and a wink to Louis for all of his great work as a barber in real life. Pat Patterson's partner took on Adrian Adonis. Adonis had his head shaved at WrestleMania 3, and then for whatever reason that night, you were in the Battle Royal, the main event, Adonis was done with WWF. Any memories of a bald Adrian leaving WWF?
No, I don't recall that at all.
No?
Of course, when you're in the woods, you can't see because there's so many trees around.
Right.
I don't even remember that match that they had. So
It wasn't a televised match. It was just, he shaved his head at WrestleMania 3,
Oh,
but
okay.
he was bald when he left the company.
Okay.
Any memories of Adrian?
I knew Adrian years before that as Keith Franks.
Mm-hmm.
He had just gotten into the wrestling business, so I guess he had a pretty good amateur background.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was in Georgia and he was in the Mid-Atlantic area. Mid-card, did well. And then I think he then came up to, went to AWA with Jesse the Body. And then from there went into New York. And,
East-West connection, I think.
yeah, and I don't know why he had decided to do the Adrian Adonis,
You mean the blonde-haired version?
the heavy-set blonde-haired version.
Yeah.
With the pink,
Very heavy set.
with the pink tights. Now, there was a heel that was really over in the South called Adrian Street.
I was at his wedding.
Yeah.
He got married at a cauliflower alley
So
club
he-
reunion.
So he may have thought that was a good gimmick, which it was for Adrian Street.
For Adrian Street, sure.
And I don't know. I mean, the next time I saw him, he was Adrian Adonis.
He got big.
Yeah. And then I found out later that he was involved in that van accident and got killed, right?
Isn't that weird? That July 4th just seemed to be a weekend of tragedies in wrestling over the years. We'll talk about that as time goes on, but Yeah, the weekend of July 4th in 1988, we lost Adonis just a couple of weeks before the Brody incident in Puerto Rico the same month.
Oh, my goodness.
I remember as a kid opening up that Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine, and I was just, you know, kind of dumbfounded. The two guys that you knew from TV, and now all of a sudden they were gone. As a kid, you know, death doesn't really resonate as it does when you're an adult.
Right.
And to find out like that in the you know, usually the Pro Wrestling Illustrated is who would win the dream match between Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair, and then you have real life stuff like that in the back of the magazine. That was sad to learn. I know Tony Atlas was had some venom towards Adonis. He said Adonis was kind of a stooge, so to speak. He'd bring the boys a little bit of the nose candy into the locker room and then report back to the office on who was doing the nose candy. Did you ever
I didn't hear
recall that kind of Adrian?
No. But I'll tell you what, one time we were at television and they had a random test. And I don't know what chemical or what, magnesium. It's supposed to counteract any drugs that are in your system.
Oh, really? I never knew that.
Yeah, but one of the side effects of the magnesium is your skin turns that color.
The skin turns red?
The skin turns red and you start perspiring immediately.
Really?
So we're sitting at TV. We're sitting at TV. And they say, okay, we're having a piss test. About 5 guys go out. Adrian's one of them. About 5 guys go out to their bags.
They have the magnesium
and they have the magnesium, and they come back in about 5 minutes, and all 5 of them
they got a hell of a tan.
look like that. From head to toe. And it's like, I didn't take anything. I didn't take anything. But you can see that they did take something because they're trying to cover it up. But that's one of the things I remember about Adrian.
So you're trying to tell me, if I've never done it, but just say I did cocaine and I was going to go in for a test. If I took magnesium,
I don't know if it works or not. No.
Oh.
You don't know if it works or not, but if they tell you it works and you're desperate, what are you going to do?
Try it. Well, do you know if they passed or failed?
I don't know.
I had no idea.
And during that time, Dan, if they wanted to catch you, they'd catch you.
Right.
If they didn't want to catch you and you took the test, you passed.
Either way.
Yeah. So.
But I'm just talking about to the general public. If they have some kind of a drug like that in their system and they take magnesium, their skin will turn red?
Oh, my God, yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah. Don't try it.
Fans, do we learn something on these shows every time?
And I wouldn't have known that because I didn't take drugs and I didn't take magnesium.
Right, you didn't have to worry about it.
But I saw the results of it because that was the buzz. Oh, you got to take some magnesium to cover up. And they come back.
Crazy?
You come back in, you see these guys walking in the hallway and sitting down like they didn't do anything.
How long would, out of curiosity, how long would they stay red?
It would last a while.
I mean, like a day and
a
few hours?
A couple hours. And it wasn't only the redness; it was the itching.
Oh, so the whole body would react?
Oh yeah, they're itching.
Really? Wow. Isn't that something?
Yep.
My God. Well, you know what? I guess if you want...
When you get a chance later on tonight, Google it and see if it's still...
I'm kind of interested. Yeah, I have honestly never, out of all the tales we've heard about cocaine and drugs on these various shows, I've never heard the magnesium version of it.
Now, I don't know if it works.
Well, I guess if they did it, they must have had a pretty... They must have been pretty certain there was some benefit to it, or they wouldn't do it.
Or maybe it counteracts the ability to detect it. I don't know.
Maybe. Well, see, the good thing is for you, you weren't dumb enough to have to worry about being put in that position.
No. I wasn't on the road to indulge in... I mean, I drank beer. I didn't smoke. Didn't take any drugs. Barry didn't. We were on the road to make a living, to take money home, to provide for our family and pay for our homes. It was a job, because the job may end. But you see a lot of guys in both companies now, more than both companies, all the companies, they think that it's never going to end. It does end.
You're always hired to get fired in wrestling,
Yeah.
pretty much, with very, very few exceptions.
Yeah.
And you know what I think is great? If you look back after all those years, back to Demolition and their big peak in the late 80s, you guys are still married to the same ladies, both of you.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that says a lot about the both of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got married before I got into wrestling.
Oh, really?
I got married when I was teaching and coaching.
Oh, wow.
Got an opportunity to ease into pro wrestling, and then got an opportunity to go full go. And my wife is a nurse, so she could, you know, there's a lot of years, those lean years. So she stuck with me, and I'm happy.
We were a happy man.
Yep.
Especially when you were getting those supplements.
Yeah.
You were very, you were very happy when you were here in 2019.
Keeps me going.
Well, in more ways than one. Also that month, you talk about car wrecks. My God, you had Barry O, the brother of Bob Orton. He was involved in a pretty serious car wreck that killed the lady that was in the car with him. He wound up doing some time. Any memories of Barry O in that situation?
No, I was never in any territories that Barry was in, with the exception of maybe a brief time there.
He
in
was an
WWF.
undercard guy with
Yeah.
WWF, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any.
That was
positive
locker
or
room
negative.
chatter when that happened?
No,
Really?
I don't remember it. Of course, there again,
It was 30 some odd years
yeah,
ago.
yeah.
No, just tough. You know, Jim Duggan was in the same situation. If you watched that program Legends House, there was a lady that he was the wife he's with now, he was traveling with. He was in a bad car accident. After a little, I believe that.
I think it was a fiance or something, or
I don't know if they were that involved, but the lady died when they were in the accident. So
I remember that.
That's tough, especially when the territory days when the guys primarily had to drive, you know, and sometimes
Yeah.
at fast speeds.
Yeah.
You know, you look at Harley Race, who probably could have joined NASCAR.
well, look at Magnum. That situation.
Oh my God, right?
Yeah, it's just.
There was the guy that was going to be the guy.
Yeah.
You know.
He was going to be the next Flair or the next
He
race.
was the guy to overcome
Yeah.
Flair, yeah. Sad. You know what? But like I said, that's what these shows are all about. The good, the bad, and somewhere in between. Bill's got so many memories in that vault of his over there. I think he's going to be with us from here until 2021 to maybe 2031 to try and sort through all of it. I don't know why he's never done a show like this or a podcast or something like that where he's got so much experience under the belt, but we want to know what you think, folks. The Premier chat box is open. Let us know your thoughts on tonight's show. If you're not watching the premiere, which you should be, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget that the super chat button is open. Tip the bartender for all of the hard work we put into these shows. Oh, wait, it's empty. Oh, my God. We really need your help now. And along with that, so many ways you can help us grow the show. Simply give us a thumbs up. Let YouTube know you're enjoying the content. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's absolutely free. We have over 2,000 free videos on YouTube for your wrestling enjoyment. And again, it lets YouTube know you're enjoying the content. It showcases it to more and more new fans. If you are a social person on social media, hit up the links to the shows on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Facebook wrestling groups. What's the other one? Wrestling websites, the quote-unquote dirt sheets. These are the great stories that you miss out on. 30 years from now, do you think the wrestlers of today are going to have the stories and memories that you have?
I hope they do, but I'm not sure.
I don't think so. I think it's going to be they went back to the hotel and played video games.
Well, I know that for a fact.
It's not
yeah.
going to be as exciting as what you guys dealt with, for better or worse. Maybe it's for the better in some cases, but interview-wise, you can't top this. And again, fans, if you want to help support the show, The eBay store is open 24/7. The link is in the description box below. Every time you make a purchase, it helps us keep the lights on to bring in more great legends. It also gives you an on-air shout-out from some of the wrestling greats that join us in studio. And of course, if you don't just want to be a fan, if you don't just want to be a friend, and we consider you a friend if you tune in, if you want to join the Boston Wrestling MWF family, head on over to patreon.com/Boston Wrestling. You get the early ad-free access to Wrestling Insiders. You get access to those acclaimed studio shoot interview DVDs that have been seen by millions online, millions on the Howard Stern Show. You get Patreon exclusives, and you get the knowledge that your fine self are helping keep wrestling legends working for about the cost of a cup of coffee. Again, head on over to patreon.com/Boston Wrestling. Your feedback is always welcome. We love to hear from you, whether it's Bill, whether it's Marty Jannetty, whether it's John Cena Sr., whether it's Barry Darso, Al Snow, Dutch Mantell, Jerry Briscoe, all of the great legends that we have coming your way this summer. We're having a heck of a time. For my partner in crime tonight, Bill Eadie, I'm Dan Marotti. Until we speak again, folks, please, you and yours be well, stay healthy.
Thank you for joining us. Please give the video a big thumbs up, leave us a comment, and subscribe to the channel to enjoy more great content. Don't forget, you can help keep wrestling legends working. Check out our eBay store and join the Boston Wrestling family at patreon.com/Boston Wrestling so we can produce more in-depth shoot interviews.